Hi guys, my name is Patty and I'm the education manager here at the Akron Zoo. And for those of you that come to the zoo a lot, you may see these animals up close, or sometimes they're kind of hiding. But for those of you that haven't had a chance to meet our coyotes, they are a brother and sister pair. Our male's name is Shyla, and his sister's name is Kaliska. And these animals have been with us for a couple years now. So a lot of people, when they hear the name coyote, they often think of all the bad stories about them. But coyotes are actually very cool animals. And it's really neat that when you guys are watching this today, you actually get to see them up and about. Now, by nature, coyotes are very secretive animals. They really don't want to have any human contact. Now, these guys, coyotes, have spread throughout the state of Ohio, and that's mainly because over the years, we have eradicated some of their natural predators, which would be mountain lions, wolves, animals like that. So as the deer population has increased, the coyote population has increased. Now, it's not uncommon to see coyotes out moving around during the day. That's kind of what they do in their natural habitats. But coyotes are very adaptable, probably one of the most adaptable mammals that we have here in North America. So when they're living in urban areas, they may change their activities to be more active at night, or maybe when the sun is going down or the sun is going up. Now, you hear stories of coyotes attacking people's pets. Normally, they don't. They are actually omnivores, and they're not really picky eaters. So if you yourself aren't a picky eater, you know you have a lot of food options to choose from. So these guys will eat a variety of things, from insects to birds. They will also eat fruit like blueberries or other fruits that they can find out in nature. And then occasionally they will take rabbits, raccoons. One might even try a skunk, but that might not end well for the coyote. And then they have been known to work together to take down larger prey. Now, unlike wolves, coyotes don't live in large, unrelated packs. It's basically a smaller family group that is comprised of an adult male and an adult female, and then their offspring. The mom will have anywhere from maybe about 3 to 9 pups per season. And when the babies are first born, it is the father's responsibility to go out and hunt for food and bring that back to his newborns and then to the female. And then as the pups get older, then the mom, the dad will bring food back to the pups. Now, before I did this Lunch and Learn, I wanted to do a little more research on coyotes, and I found out some really cool things. I did not know that they are actually good swimmers, but that kind of makes sense if you think about how they have been able to move across North America and down into parts of Central America. You know, they can get there by swimming. Sometimes when I talk to people and they're not sure if they saw a dog or a coyote, maybe they were out walking in the evening, the early morning, one of the best ways to tell is if it starts to come near you, it is probably not a coyote. It's going to keep its distance. Another thing that you can look for is as he runs, as we see our one coyote kind of walking around there, typically your dogs will run with their tail up. Coyotes have their tail down. And if you're definitely not sure, You just want to keep away from it. Now sometimes people get concerned about coyotes in their backyard. Some of the things we need to remember is these animals are out in nature trying to raise their families, and they're going to be looking for any food source. And since they are a type of canine, if you leave dog food out or cat food out, they will be more than happy to make a meal of that. You also want to make sure that when you're letting your pets out, if you know you have coyotes in the area, you want to keep an eye on them, especially if they're smaller. You want to make sure that if you have any food left over from a picnic or anything like that, you clean that up, and also make sure that you have your garbage cans secured, because just like raccoons, a coyote will smell something in there and they will certainly make a meal out of it. Now, coyotes are very vocal animals. They're probably one of the most vocal mammals in North America. Some of the sounds that they make would be a growl. Now this is probably not, this should not be a sound that you're ever going to hear, because just like with your domestic dog at home, a growl is a low rumbling sound, and that means I'm not happy and you need to step away. But other sounds that you may hear off in the distance are a yelp or a bark howl. And a bark howl is one that they will use when they want to let other coyotes in the area know that there is a threat or something that they perceive as a threat. Another one that I kind of like, because the coyotes will do it with their next door neighbors here at the zoo, the red wolf, they will actually, when they, marking our spot, that is something that they do that would let all the other coyotes here at the Akron Zoo know that, hey, this is my territory, you're not welcome here. But the howling, and typically here we hear our coyotes and the red wolf howling when there are sirens going by. So that is just something, maybe your dog at home does that. They hear the sirens of a fire truck or an ambulance, and it just sets them off and they start howling along with it. Now, Native Americans have quite a few stories about the coyote, and it really depends on, what tribe you're hearing the story be told from. But often the coyote is portrayed as a trickster, an animal that likes to pull pranks on others. Some actually thought of the coyote as a symbol of power. So it really depends on, where the tribe was located and what their story was. Another one, people, Native Americans would consider the coyote a skinwalker, where they would be a coyote and then later on they were turned into a human. Well, we know that's not true, but if you like cool stories and you like to read about folklore, coyotes have a lot of great folklore about them. So I highly suggest, while you're at home, hopping on the internet and taking a look at some of the myths and the legends out there about the coyote.
So how old are our coyotes?
Our coyotes are around 7 years old, 7 to 8 years old.
Their birthdays are actually in a couple of weeks. They'll turn 8.
Oh, yes, they will turn 8. Oh my gosh, it's April already, so very soon they will be turning 8 years old.
So Finley wants to know, how much do they eat in a day?
Ooh, that is a good question. All of the animals that live here at the zoo do get a very specified diet, so I don't know the exact amount of food that they're getting. One thing that we do know is sometimes they like to add to their own diet by getting a hold of animals that decided to make a bad choice and come inside the exhibit. So sometimes they may add a little bit of bird to their diet, raccoon, and I think maybe a rabbit or two. And he was stalking the bird.
The bird
So,
got away.
You may hear your parents or grandparents say life is all about choices. So if you are a bird, it is not a good choice to try to land in the coyote exhibit because the coyote is doing what it does out in nature.
So Kennedy wants to know how you can tell the difference between a wolf and a coyote.
A wolf and a coyote. There's a couple different ways. Number one, we're going to say where you're at. So if you're looking out your back window, or maybe you're sitting on your back porch, or you're taking a walk and you see something, it's not a wolf because wolves have been pretty much removed from this area. Another way to tell is the snout of a coyote is a little longer and slender than the snout or the muzzle or the nose of a wolf. And a wolf in general is going to be much larger than a coyote.
So Emmanuel wants to know how fast can coyotes run?
You know, this was one of the interesting facts that I found when I was doing some reading on these guys. I did not realize that they can run about 40 miles per hour.
So can coyotes climb trees?
I have not read anything that they can climb a tree like a cat. I do know that if they are given the opportunity on a lower limb that's big enough to support them, and maybe there's a squirrel up in the tree, they might be able to get up a little bit, but they're not going to scale a tree like a jaguar or a leopard would.
So what are our coyote stories? So how did they come to live at the Akron Zoo?
Right.
They weren't born here, but were they born at another zoo? Were they rescued?
Well, these guys have an interesting story. The USDA has a National Wildlife Research Center out in Logan, Utah. And they were actually studying coyotes, trying to figure out more about them because they are secretive animals. And they're not an animal that's just going to come up and say, hello, here I am, come research me. So they were part of a litter that was born there, and then they came to us. And when they came to the Akron Zoo, since they were basically in this research center out in nature, they were very shy of people. They weren't used to interacting with people, so that shows you by nature, coyotes, they're scared of us. They don't want to be around us. So it took quite a while for them to even become trustful of the staff here. And they are technically wild animals, so we do training with them, and sometimes they choose to participate, and sometimes they choose to just take a nap or simply ignore us.
So Luke wants to know, can coyotes be different colors?
They can be. You're typically not going to find a coyote that is, well, pink. You're just not going to find that. But you're not typically going to find one that is black or anything like that. You might see, like, ours have a nice kind of like brown grayish coat. You might find some out there that are more gray than brown, and it just really depends on the area that they're in and kind of what the rest of their family looks like.
So, can our coyotes have pups?
They cannot. A couple of reasons why we are not allowing them to breed is because number one, they're brother and sister, so we don't want that. And number two, although I think coyote pups would be super cool to see, there's not a lot of available space at other zoos where the coyotes could go. And we certainly wouldn't want to have coyotes and then release them out into nature because there's pretty much already coyotes there and there would be too much competition for space. So right now we just have this brother and sister pairing and they will continue to live long lives here with us at the zoo.
How big can coyotes get?
A male coyote, a heavy one, will probably get about 35 pounds. A female can weigh about 36. And I looked at the weights that our keepers took on the coyotes a couple months ago, and our female, Kaliska, actually weighs about a pound more than her brother.
So how many coyotes do we have here at the Akron Zoo? Isaiah is asking.
Well, we have 2 that live here on a full-time basis. Since we are in an area with woods and there is a human population, we could possibly have coyotes living out in nature kind of wandering by. So that's one of the things that we need to take a look at is when the zookeepers and other staff come in, looking for any tracks. Because sometimes we also have domestic dogs visiting the zoo. And one of the best ways you can keep your pet safe is be a responsible pet owner and don't let your animal wander. So if we see any suspicious tracks, then we'll try to identify them. And if a coyote in the area, then we just want to first make sure our animals are secure and look at ways to make sure that the animal isn't coming into contact with any of our animals that live here at the zoo.
So are there different size coyotes in the wild?
Depending on the region. In some of the areas, maybe where it's hotter and it is not a lot of food availability, by tendency, your coyotes could be smaller. And then typically, the further north you go, the larger your animals will be. And one of the reasons why they are larger is because they're going to need a nice thick fur coat to protect them from the elements.
So why do the coyotes howl when the sirens go off?
That I don't know. There must be something in the pitch, the tone of the sirens that has them howl. I know I've seen plenty of videos where people have dogs at home and they howl. My dogs don't even react. So there must be something in it. And the first time I heard it, I was here at the zoo and it was early in the morning and I heard all these strange sounds and I was like, oh my gosh, what is that? But then when I listened closer, I was all excited because I was like, oh my gosh, that's the coyotes and the wolf howling. So it sounds kind of like a domestic dog, but if you listen very carefully, I'm not a music expert, but the tone or the pitch is just a bit off.
Okay.
So it looks like it might be nap time over here. So I did bring a pelt for you guys to see. Now, this is a real coyote pelt. Probably the number one question we get is, did you kill the coyote to get that pelt? No, we did not. Coyotes are still hunted for their fur, although it's really not extremely valuable, but this was what we call a biofact that we got. So you can see that they've got this nice woolly fur on their belly, helps keep them nice and warm. And then if you come a little bit later in the spring, a lot of our animals will look real shaggy, almost like they're falling apart. And that's just because they're shedding their winter coat. And sometimes people ask, well, do you brush them? Nope. The animals are responsible for their own personal hygiene. So you might come here and just see clumps of fur in the coyote exhibit. Don't panic. That is normal. That is something that you would see out in nature where shedding animals are. They will go up on the trees, or they'll find branches or sticks and they'll rub on it, just probably because it's itchy and they just want to get that thick coat off so that they can enjoy the summer and spring season.
All right. We'll have you guys join us again tomorrow. I just want to thank you guys for joining us today. We will see you again.